I have a solution to the problem there being no books for men. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to another video in which I'm going to discuss the topic of people online and social media talking about how there are no books for men. This video is prompted by a couple of videos I saw from channels that are not as big as mine, and as you know, I try not to punch down these videos, and by one channel which is much larger than mine, and so I feel free to punch up. That channel you may remember from another video I did on this exact same topic. That channel is called Echo Chamberlain, and Echo Chamberlain has a new video out, and it is called Modern Fiction is a Boring, Hyper-Feminized Mess. That is the title of the video which he put out. And in that video he goes through what is essentially, the same argument we've heard before, that, men and boys are not reading because they can't find anything at the bookstore or in the library that appeals to them. And this is because, of course, there's a cabal of women who have taken over, literary agencies, who've taken over publishing houses, and are actively working, not to make money for their company and for themselves, but to prevent men from being able to publish. And there's also some stuff in there he has about how writing contests are hurting young men and boys, and they're reading and they're... Anyway, I couldn't quite follow that. There is, by the way, within that video, and I'll leave a link to it down below, there is, by the way, within that video, I thought, a really kind of funny takeoff on book covers featuring kind of historical fiction set during World War II in which there are women facing away. Now, I don't think this is completely original, but I did think that that was at least funny and kind of pointing out the sameness that we can get sometimes in publishing, particularly from book covers. But, of course, Echo Chamberlain presents this as, a crisis, and that it's everybody else's fault that, men aren't getting published, that boys, young men, aren't finding books to read because, books used to be cool, and being a fiction writer used to be cool. Back in the 90s when you had Martinez and Ian McEwan and Salman Rushdie and Chuck Palahniuk and Irving Welsh and, Kazuo Ishiguro, those guys were challenging the mainstream. They were iconoclastic in the way in which they wrote, and they were cool guys, and, they were, people wanted to be like them and emulate them, which I found kind of funny, because I'm not sure that you could say that this is necessarily true, that people thought Ian McEwan, or that a lot of young men, other than perhaps Echo Chamberlain, thought Ian McEwan was cool. I kind of like him and think he's good. I kind of thought Martin Amos was a bit of a jackass, but, occasionally funny. If, as another friend of mine informed me, classist. I don't see Kazuo Ishiguro as being, and I don't mean this to be offensively, I don't see his work as being anything other than highly introspective and emotional. Irving Welsh, I've only seen, movies. I believe they're based on Irving Welsh novels, Trainspotting and Shallow Grave, and Chuck Palahniuk, the author of Fight Club, which oftentimes comes up in these videos where, we're talking about these authors and how male authors aren't out there. But I'm not sure that he actually remembers these books or the authors as well as he claims to. And I'll get really quickly to the problem and then the solution that I have for this problem. The problem seems to be with, and I said this before, the problem seems to be with these men who are convinced that there is this plot, this conspiracy to prevent men from getting published, and that results in, young boys and young men not wanting to read because it's not cool, and playing video games and things instead of that. Their point is that there's some kind of unfair thing that's happened to fiction, that women have taken over fiction writing. In this case, he starts off by talking about literary fiction, but I'm not sure that he exactly sticks to that, and that this has happened, and that as a result we're seeing of what these women have done, we are seeing young men and boys not want to read, and then not being able to go to the bookstore and find things. Well, I have a solution for Echo Chamberlain and for everybody else who feels this way, and who feels like, book talk and social media with young women on there promoting these books, which has led them to be these really popular, big-selling books taking over bookstores. My solution is to embrace capitalism and to do what those young women did. Find male authors, promote their work on your channel, on social media in short form and long form, seek those authors out where they publish in independent presses or they publish in big mainstream presses and promote their books, and see if you can get people to be as excited about those books as you claim all these young women have gotten people to be excited about the books that they want to read. In other words, market these books, promote these books, ask for these books at the bookstore, ask for these books at the library. Actually do something other than whining about how unfair everything is. And I have a starting place for you. I have here 15 authors, some of them well established, some of them less well known, which I'm just going to run through really quickly as a place where you can start to find male authors who are writing, books and are being published today. Some are established, some not so much. So the first one on my list is Colm Toibin, author of Brooklyn, author of The Master, author of Long Island, an Irish author who's well regarded for his style and his writing ability and his storytelling ability. Great author. David Mitchell, author of Cloud Atlas, Thousand Autumns of Jacob Bezout, Bone Clocks, and other stories, still publishing, still an author out there. And yeah, I think you could safely say he is somebody who is challenging kind of the structure of literary fiction by introducing notes of science fiction fantasy. Stephen Markley, author of Ohio and The Deluge. Great young American author whose books are really well regarded, and they definitely are not necessarily what Echo Chamberlain and others seem to think there is. These kind of introspective novels all about trauma. David Diop, At Night All Blood Is Black, an incredibly violent and I thought incredibly great book. Jon Fosse just won the Nobel Prize. If you're more into stream of consciousness and writing style for writing style's sake, there's the Septology, there's Alice by the Fire. Percival Everett, my new favorite author. James, The Trees, Erasure. He writes a lot. He's written lots of books, and almost none of them the same, and all of them in some ways are challenging to the ideas in the United States of America or the ideas in publishing. Oftentimes, great author. Ronan Hession, another one of my favorite authors. Irish author of Leonard and Hungry Paul, Panenka, Ghost Mountain, who writes about incredibly relatable characters, and his books are he has 3 books out, and none of them are exactly the same. And Ghost Mountain is incredibly, I think, challenging and in some ways, challenges the basic ideas, oftentimes, of literary fiction. Sebastian Martinez Daniell, author of Two Sherpas, a really kind of inventive story in which 2 Sherpas basically spend the entire book talking about an Englishman who's fallen to his death and kind of talking about their lives and what they're going to do. Morgan Talty, author of Fire Exit and Night of the Living Res, just a great author capturing the Native American experience of a group of Native American people living in Maine. Colson Whitehead, maybe the best American writer writing today. Underground Railroad, The Nickel Boys, Harlem Shuffle, and that trilogy has going on. He's written science fiction, I believe. I think he might have written a horror novel. Tommy Orange, There, and Wandering Stars, great young author who writes about the problems of Native Americans living in city and urban areas. Justin Torres, author of Blackouts, an incredibly inventive book, which contains not only text but what appear to be almost like copied excerpts from letters and documents with parts blacked out, and it kind of all adds up to a really, I think, innovative book. Ryan Denis wrote one of my favorite books and least known books from many years ago, and that's The Beast They Turned Away, about essentially an Irish farmer and the kid who he's raising, and how the community there sees the kid as something of a curse. Daniel Mason, Northwoods, kind of a book set in one location. We follow the people who live in that location, that house, over generations. Not my favorite book, but I think definitely inventive. And then Kevin Barry, a new to me author who's written many books. The book I read was The Heart in Winter, and also he also got a lot of notoriety for, I believe, Night Boat to Tangiers. There you go. There are 15 male authors who write literary fiction who, if you're serious about wanting to get more books on the shelves by men, wanting to see, what you think is fair representation of men in bookstores and in libraries and in book prizes, go out and promote these men. Go out and read their work, promote their work on your channel. Make it a big deal when their books come out. If you don't like these 15, find some of your own and do that. Use your channel to do the very thing that you claim that young women have done to take over publishing, to take over bookstores and bookshelves. Do something. Stop whining. Anyway, there you go. Look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.